Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now as you could see, if you watched my video on how to install that Sporty front rotor, now we're here in this video where we're going to install the Sporty rear rotor. We're going to go ahead and get rid of this boring looking rotor and put some excitement onto our e-vader. Therefore we have a matching set. So let's get started. Alright, now to get to the rear one. Now the rear is going to be just a little bit difficult just because the hub motor is in the back. So I could only imagine that thing is going to weigh a lot. So, and also for me, and my particular bike, you may not have this on your bike, but I do have LED lights on this bike, so I have a whole complete glow kit on it, which is on my membership section of my YouTube channel on how to install this glow kit on the e-vader. As far as other LED light installs are concerned, everything on how to install any type of LED glow kits on motorcycles is going to be in that section of my channel, and that's going to be in my third option category. So if you go down underneath this video, there's going to be a join button. Select that, go to the third one, which is going to be the fun stuff. Click there to join and you'll see how to install the lights. Anyhow, so I do have lights on it, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and remove these backlights, as we're gonna have to use this rear swing arm stand more towards this back end, because obviously I'm gonna have to remove my swing arm spools, and we need to get to the lock nuts on this to remove the wheel. So therefore I'm gonna have to put it back here. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove this. Like I said, you may not have this, so you don't have to worry about it. You could just, you know, put your rear stand more towards the back end here. Put something underneath for the wheel to support it, because like I said, I'm sure that wheel is plenty heavy. Alrighty, now that I got those LEDs lights removed, now for you guys, if you did not watch my video on how to install these rear swing arm spools, then all you're going to have over here is going to be a small bolt. I believe it's going to be a 10mm nut like this one, so go ahead and remove that on both sides. But because I have the swing arm spool, I'm going to go ahead and remove these off of both sides. So whichever you have, go ahead and remove it from both sides. Okay, the socket that we're going to need to remove the nut off of the rear part of the bike is going to be this 27. You could zoom in there. There we go. So you can see it's a 27mm socket. This one's a deep socket, and that's what you're going to need because one side is actually longer than the other side. So I'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to put this on there, and you're going to get on the first bolt, and we're going to take it off. If you have an impact gun, great. If you don't, you could also use a breaker bar to loosen up the nut. Then after you get this one off, there's going to be a second one, and then we're going to put this one back in there, and same thing, we're going to loosen it, take off the second one. That's that side. So let me show you the side view. So you can see from the side, there's two of them, one here and one there. So again, goes in, and then once we have to completely remove that one to actually get to the next one. So that's why this one's going to come into place. Once we remove it, we'll be able to get it in all the way. But as far as the other side, you can see that this one is actually longer, but for some reason on this side, this one's actually shorter. Again, there's two on this side as well. There's one here and then the other one. So you go ahead and put that in there, remove it, and then the second one, again, you don't have to remove it, just loosen it. Okay, now before we actually loosen this one up, we want to make sure that we get it back in its normal position when we put it back. I have a yellow marker. I'm not sure if it's going to really work. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of mark right here. Oh, it actually does work. Kind of mark it right there, mark it over here, and mark it up here. I'm going to do this for both sides. At least I know what the bracket's going to go right here. And then kind of just see if I can mark it right here. Right there, so I know that this hole is right there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with the other side. You guys do the same. If you have a yellow marker or even a white marker to kind of mark it so you know that the bracket goes in its, you know, in the spot where it was originally. Alright, so now we need to get to this back end lifted so we could actually remove the wheel. So let's get our rear stand in position. I have it right underneath on the swing arm. Make sure that I have it positioned right on both, and then we're just going to go ahead and lift it. Okay, it's looking good. Okay, I got it leveled. Alright, looking good so far. Alright, I think it's pretty sturdy there, and I pretty much just got it lined up with this bolt right here for that side. Alright, so now I can go ahead and pretty much remove the screw. And for the other end, it wasn't too hard on removing the screw, because on this end, the distance of this bolt, or with the with this, I don't know what you even call it, with this end of it pretty much was shorter, so I was able to get it with the impact gun on that. Alright, so I think you just can pretty much loosen it. I don't think we have to actually remove it completely because it doesn't slide out like the front does. On this one, we're just going to have to kind of pull it out. And in order to do that, I think we may have to remove the caliper, as the caliper is in the way to actually remove the whole wheel. Okay, in order to remove the rear caliper, we're going to have the 10mm socket, and we're going to have to remove these two bolts. That is all that's holding the rear caliper. And they're not even that tight on the screws anyway, so okay, let's put the screws. Both screws are the same length, so you have to worry about one being longer than the other. Alright, so for now, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of put this off to the side. Alright, so now that we have our wheel completely loose. Alright guys, friends, once you have everything loosened, you're going to notice that this bracket for the brake caliper is on this pin from the swing arm. So you're going to have to make sure that you get it off of there. So you just got to pretty much move it like this, and it just pretty much slides down. Alright, so now that we got that part out of the way, now next I'm going to go put this back over here so you guys can see. When moving the wheel, we're just going to get it off because obviously the power cable is still holding and it's still connected onto from the wheel. So we just want to make sure we slide this part off. Okay. Oh, there we go. And we're just going to have it kind of hanging. We just need this side pretty much off. Alright, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and undo this nut on this side because we do need to get the bracket and all of this stuff off so we can actually get the rotor out of the way. So go ahead and when you remove everything, make sure you put everything off to the side in the same way you took it off. So when you put everything back on, put everything the same way. So this doesn't matter, but this bracket, just note the position because obviously this side's marred up and this side, well, they're pretty much up. But I think it says QS on the bracket. I'm not sure you could even see that. It says QS right there. So that part is going to face up because that part was facing out. Next we got a spacer, a big spacer or a wider spacer, a skinnier spacer. We got the bracket for the caliper, and then we actually have, that's about it. This spacer is going to go here, then this one is going to go right on top of it, and then this one is the bracket for the caliper. Boy, that fell right there. Okay, so note that the caliper for the bracket, there's going to be like a little notch right here, and that's going to stick on the outside because if you put it on the inside, it's not going to work out. So make sure you note that prior to putting it back in. So I'm going to go ahead and put this face down. So when we grab everything's going to go back the way it came out. All right, so now that we got everything already loosened, like I said, we're not going to completely take the wheel out because obviously the power on the other side, the cable, the thick orange one, is still connected to the bike. But at least we have this part out. So now we're going to go ahead and remove these screws with the 6mm Allen key. Let's go ahead and remove all three of them, and I'm going to pop the disc and slide it out. Alrighty guys, so here is our stock rotor. Now the rotor that we're going to be using to put in the rear is going to come to a surprise for you guys just because I did try to look for a rotor that will match for the rear. The only problem is that I ordered so many and either that they were too small in diameter or the holes didn't match up with this one from the e-vader. So what I'm going to do, and it will work, is that I had bought another front rotor like the one we did from the previous video on installing this one for the front. Here we go, much better in the lighting. So you can see this obviously is a 4-hole. This is a 3-hole. How are we going to make it work? Now what we're going to do is I'm going to put the front rotor on the bottom, and the rotor sizes are the same exact diameter. There is no, I mean, they're both, I think these are both a 3mm thickness. So if you compare them, well, maybe this one's just a little thicker, as you can see. Sorry for the overexposure, guys. But the thickness is pretty close. The stock one is just a little bit thinner than this one. But as far as the diameter is concerned, as you can see, I'll put the stock one at the bottom and we'll put the aftermarket here on the top. It is the same diameter, all in all, 100% on that department. And you guys are more than welcome to try to experiment and see if you could find an exact rotor of this. I may have some links down below from AliExpress, out of all places, for a possible match. The only reason I didn't go with AliExpress on purchasing those rotors because the return policy is not the same as Amazon's policy, you know, because on Amazon I'm able to find a lot more parts, you know, for the the e-vader, and the return policy for Amazon is so much better because if it doesn't fit, you can return and get your money back, no problem. Problem with AliExpress is that if it doesn't work out for you, the return is going to cost you so much more compared to receiving it, and at times they're not going to even refund you the money. They may say to you, yeah, we'll refund you the money once we receive the part, but I would say 99.9% of the time they're not going to give you your money back. So, and trust me guys, I dealt with them, and it's not fun and it's very frustrating. So I didn't want to chance it, especially with stuff like this, because so like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill the core. Well, the front one is going to match, but these bottom ones we have to make a hole for it. So I'm going to put it pretty much on the top here, and we may have to drill out this one just a tad hair bigger, you know, to allow for the screw to fit through. It's just a hair, you know, just a little bit on that part. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and we are going to line up the hole with that, at least that front, the first one. And once I have it lined up, I'm going to go ahead and maybe color it in with a marker, red, blue, doesn't matter, black, it doesn't really matter the color of marker you use to color in where the circle is. I'm also going to center punch it so that way I know where the center is. So you're going to have to want to do the same if you want to go with this particular procedure on actually making this rotor fit for the back. All right, so here is the bolt, and you can see it has this little collar on at the top. The hole is big enough for it to like sit in there flush, just like this. Well, as flush as it's going to get, you know, so that's why when we make the hole, we're going to make it just big enough to allow that collar to go inside. Okay, the reason I'm showing you the floor is because another important thing when making the hole is that you want the center of both of the original with the aftermarket to be dead on. So even though I said that we're going to line it up with that hole, but if we do that, look how off it is over here. So we definitely don't want that. So even if we have to make that hole, that main hole, just a tad bit bigger, you want to make sure that this center part, so I'm holding like this to really get everything super centered. And if anything, get some clamps and clamp them, you know, on this side, maybe get a paper towel so you don't scuff up the metal, you know, on this side and on this side, to get something that's going to clamp and hold it really good so you guys could, you know, either if you guys want to have it as a template and make your drill it with this in place, so or you could mark it and just, you know, drill in the middle. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. But yeah, you just want to make sure that this part is super centered. Alrighty guys, as you can see, I already marked my spots, centered it, and then what I use to center punch the metal is this center punch thing. It's made by Husky. I'm not trying to promote their brand or anything. I'm not sponsored by them, but I just kind of wanted to show you the tool that I usually use to mark things in. It has a light setting and a heavy setting. I usually always turn it to really heavy, you know, because you really want to make sure that indentation is really on there. If you put this to really light, it may not indent what you're trying to do that good. So on heavy, it takes pretty much a lot of force. So let me go ahead and do it. Put it right where you need it, and then you're gonna push it really hard down, get that force, and it'll indent. It'll make the indentation for your drill bit is what this is used for. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it so you can hear it. So you can see it. So you hear that noise because it's going against this metal here. If I were to just do it without it, it's gonna sound like this. Usually I do at least 2 to really make sure that it made that indentation into the metal. So now that I got those parts already done, and you can see where I had marked my my circles. Now I wanted to, you know, put the circles in an area where it's not going to have any, where I'm not going to drill into a spot where some information, like, so I was originally going to make this my top hole, but I noticed that the hole would have been over here and one over here. So this is like, you know, the serial number of everything. So I didn't want to mess that up in case I needed that kind of information in the future. All right, there we go. You can see the serial kind of like information about the rotor right there, and then same thing with this one, some numbers or whatever, maybe a skew for this particular rotor. And over here, the hole I'll be making is over here, so this part's not gonna be affected. And then over here, I may cut a little bit off of that letter C because that's where the hole is gonna be. So that's not a real big deal for this part. We already know that this brake rotor is an EBC rotor. All right, so now that I got that already set and done, now next, the tool that I'm going to use to make the hole is going to be a step drill bit. And here is the brand that I'm using. You know, again, not sponsored by any of these products. It's just that when I find things that work, I like to share it with you guys. So I'm going to be using the smaller one. There is a bigger one. There is a smaller one. So I'm going to go ahead and use the smaller one to do the hole. If you're wondering what these are counter screw holes or counter drill bits for other projects. Anyhow, all right, so got that. All right, that's the best I could get it to zoom in. So it actually goes up to here. It stops like right there. So it's when we do our new drill or when we make our hole, if you want, you could put a piece of tape like up to here so you know exactly where to stop, or you can mark it. I'll probably mark it with the marker as tape seems to fly out. So I'll probably just mark it here so I know on both ends on where to stop drilling, or you could actually, you know, drill little by little, or you could keep on drilling until you get just enough for this part to seat through. I'm gonna get started in drilling and go little by little slowly until I get that to go through, and then we'll take it from there and I'll show you how it looks, everything looks like. All right, now check it out. The rotor looks amazing, looks so good. So you can see we cut a little bit of the E. I don't know if you can even see that. Cut a little bit of the E, who cares? A little bit on the number of the, you know, the indication marks or whatever on the rotor, but not too bad. We can still tell that that is a number 2 right there. So, but everything else is looking good. A little mark still left over. That's okay. Everything else is looking good. Okay, so next what we're gonna do is we're gonna install the rotor. There we go. You can see the bike now. You can see the wheel actually. Now we're gonna go ahead and install this back on the bike or on the rear. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna kind of just grab the rotor or the wheel, hold it like this, enough to slide it through like this, and let's just get it back on there so at least it's being supported. Next, we're just gonna make sure that we put the rotor, let's get the better view right here, much better on the tripod. All right, so as you can see, already got it on there, and I put the rotor right in the center to make sure everything is centered. Now we're gonna go ahead and look for where the mounting holes are. Let's go ahead and get our bolts. It's up to you if you want to put a little bit of thread lock on the threads. As you can see, mine still has a little bit of thread lock already from the factory still on there, so I'm okay on putting it on there. So I'm going ahead and mark it in there. Okay, and right now we're just gonna hand put it in. We're not gonna thread it in all the way. We just want to make sure that we get all the bolts in and screwed in. If you feel any tightness when putting it in, take it out and re-put it in, because you definitely don't want to cross thread up. You can see if you put the bolt in there and it goes in too loose, then you know that's not the right hole. Go ahead and put it on this one. You should feel some tension and feel some threads when you thread it in there. All right, after you do that and you feel a little bit of tightness there, then just do that for the rest of it. Let's go ahead and screw those in until they're kind of a little bit of some friction of tightness. All right, so everything is looking good. You want to make sure that the rotor is centered with the hole of the screws, and then you're gonna go ahead and tighten down your screws with your 6mm Allen key. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then just go one, every other one when screwing it in or tightening down the bolts. You don't want too much pressure to kind of be like this or like this when tightening everything. You want everything to be even amount of pressure all around. All right, all the screws are in there and tight, and it's looking good so far. Everything's on there nice and great. All right, so now that we got everything there and tight with all the bolts, now next we're gonna grab our bracket and everything for the calipers and put everything back in place. All right, so I might as well do it with you guys. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move the wheel off to the side a little bit right there. Kind of have it down in the down position. Might as well move the camera there. All right, so we're gonna get our bracket and we are gonna put it in, make sure that that lip or this part that sticks out goes in first. Go in like this. Then after that, we have our 2 spacers. It's gonna be the small one first, or the skinnier one, and then the fat one. Okay, and then after that goes in our rectangle bracket. Make sure that the QS is facing outwards. And also note that the position of this is like, it's not a complete circle, it's actually has a flat side, so it's going to correspond with that flat side. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and lift up the wheel. Let's get this part out, and then we're going to slide this and this there. And then this bracket, make sure that you have it, that whole part that I had showed you guys earlier, right about there. Make sure that that hole goes with that little peg right over here. So make sure it lines up and lays restfully right there. It's probably going to be right at the edge because of the spacers, but once we tighten everything, it's going to kind of sandwich up everything and it'll be like this. So now that we got all of our parts in like this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our first nut. Now note that we do have 2 of them. We got a fat one and we got a skinny one. The skinny one goes in last. We're going to put in the fat one first. So we're going to put this in. And so not only that, when you're before you tighten everything, make sure that you line up everything with how you have your markings. So as you can see, if I were to tighten everything, you can see how far the bracket is from the line that we marked first. So we know that this is not going to be aligned properly. So we want to make sure that our bracket goes back to that line that we had previously marked, so that everything is, I would say, aligned. If anything, to help you not lose your position, get your bolt and actually thread it in. That's the way it'll secure that the bracket bracket doesn't get misaligned. So let's say probably about there. I think that's where it was. Just so put it in as much as you can, not all the way I would say, but just a little bit, and then you can push the bracket down so it could rest against the bolt there. I'm gonna do the same thing with the other side. Just gonna go ahead and thread that bolt in. Make sure I push the wheel in. All right, so now I got the bolt on both sides. I'm gonna go ahead and push the wheel back so that the bracket rests on this bolt there. And now that everything's there, I'm gonna go ahead and twist the nut on both ends, and then get my torque bar or my torque wrench, or yeah, you say torque wrench, and then you know, go ahead and tighten down the bolts on each side. So you guys do the same. All right, so now you're probably asking me, well, Alfonso, you're doing it with the torque wrench. How many foot-pounds do I need to tighten down the bolt? Well, I would say you want to set it down to 100 foot-pounds. I know it's kind of hard to see in the meter here, but 100 foot-pounds will get you at the correct tightness to tighten down the bolts. I'll go ahead and put my line socket here. Let's get this done. All right, so I already got it down to 100 foot-pounds on this side and on the other side. You want to be careful when you do it the other side, because obviously on the back end on this side, on the non-rotor side, you're pushing down to get the torque, compared to doing it on this side, you're actually going to be going up to tighten down the bolts. So I would say, you know, make sure that you have your hand over here on the seat, or have someone, you know, kind of press down on it, holding it, this part down right over here, pressing down on that part while you lift up to tighten it down on this side. Once you have it down to 100 foot-pounds on each, the second bolt doesn't have to be that tight. Go ahead and put this on there, and I would say just snug it to this one, because this is pretty much just preventing that fat nut from coming out. So you just gotta snug tight this one on both sides. So that's just the smaller nut. You don't have to go all too crazy on over tightening that bolt. Now that we got both of those bolts on both sides already tight and everything is looking good, just to make sure that the wheel spins freely. It's not you know, too tight where it's not going to allow it to spin. So now that we got that part, now let's go ahead and put our caliper back in place. So to do that, we're just going to go ahead and grab it right here, and then we are going to make sure that we slide it over the caliper disc and then install the bolts. Up to you again if you want to put a little thread lock on your bolts here. I still got a little bit on mine, so I'm just going to stick with that, and then until the next one where I'll probably need to, you know, put some more thread lock. Okay, get that one there. Get this one. Make sure you have your little spacer. Oh, what's going on? My camera's never focusing correctly. So make sure you have your little spacer on, and then put the other bolt in. Again, you just want to hand tighten for now, because you don't want to cross thread anything. All right, once you have it nice and snug, now you're gonna go ahead and get your ratchet with your 10mm socket, and go ahead and tighten down the bolt. Let's go ahead and okay, everything is feeling pretty good. I probably put that that zip tie over here on this part of the, so it doesn't rub, because that was an issue before where this part of the brake line was actually rubbing against the rotor. So I'm going to go ahead and get a zip tie and put it back to that little bracket, which is here on the inside. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll just tell you right now, you want to get a little zip tie, because you could see on how much rubbing it is, it's actually touching the rotor. You definitely don't want that. So you're going to get a zip tie and just kind of pull the brake line just ever so slightly, just to get it off of the rotor. Okay, now that I already got to that zip tie, and if you see right there, there is a zip tie holding the brake line away from the rotor. So you can see now it's not even touching the rotor whatsoever. So we won't get any clicking or any grinding or any markings on our rotor. Okay, so everything's looking good. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start up the bike, and go ahead and just make sure everything is working properly. So I'm gonna turn the key, go ahead and give it a little throttle. I'm going to go ahead and press the brake lightly. I'm going to start, you know, slowly braking in the brake pads to this rotor. Alright guys, so that's going to be pretty much it for the video on how to install the rear Sporty rotor for your Venom Motorsports e-vader. Now it's going to be a complete match for having a front rotor that's Sporty, as you can see over here, the Sporty front rotor. Now I have a matching rear rotor to go with it. Alright guys, so that's going to be pretty much it for the video on how to install this really good Sporty rotor now that I got a good match from the front. If you guys enjoyed the video, please smash that like button. If you didn't like it, smash the dislike button. Let me know down below what you disliked about the video to help me improve for a future one. And while you're down there, don't forget to join. There's going to be a join button down there. And if you do join my channel, I will have 4 options. The first option will just allow you to have your comments posted to the top. The second option is going to allow you to be able to view videos before they become available for everybody else. So you'll get first dibs on seeing any videos, because I do normally post videos before you guys see them, as you guys see them every Saturday. But I may have posted a video on a Monday. You won't see it until a Saturday, but if you are a second tier member, you'll be able to see them right when I upload them. The third tier will allow you to see glow kits and other stuff for the bike. Not only this bike, but maybe for, well, coming up soon for the Gixxer, and I have one for the R3. Got some videos already there. So you may want to do number 3, as that's where all the main stuff will be. For number 3, you're also going to see the hub motor upgrade there for the e-vader. You're going to see the new controller there for the e-vader, and the battery upgrade over there in that third section. And then the fourth option is going to allow you to see custom headlights for motorcycles, not only some of the bikes that I own, but for different types of other bikes. Anyhow, I appreciate you guys. I'm happy that you guys are watching my videos, sharing my videos, and subscribing. All right, guys, you guys take care, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.